On the morning of May the 8th, 1902, the most beautiful city in the Caribbean woke up for the last time. They called it the Paris of the Antilles, a theater, a tramway, gas lamps, newspapers from Paris arriving by ships, 30,000 people living between the mountain and the sea. By 8 o'clock that morning, almost all of them would be dead. This is not really a story about a volcano. It is a story about who arrived afterward and what they understood before anyone else did. Let's go script. When Saint-Pierre disappeared, the world reacted immediately. Ships arrived, donations arrived, telegrams arrived. France mourned one of the richest cities in its Caribbean empire, but another country saw something else emerging from the ashes. Not territory, not conquest, something newer, visibility, influence, the power of being seen helping first. In 1902, Saint-Pierre was the jewel of the French Caribbean, not the administrative capital that was Fort-de-France. But Fort-de-France handled paperwork. Saint-Pierre handled money, sugar, rum, shipping, insurance, an opera house where companies performed directly from Paris. Cafes filled with merchants speaking all the languages, French, Spanish, English, and Creole. A botanical garden overlooking the harbor. And above everything, green, quiet, almost elegant, the mountain, Mount Pelée, the bold mountain. It had erupted before, decades earlier, and caused little damage. Most people treated it as scenery, a place for Sunday walks. Nobody truly feared it. And in the harbor, among the ships of every trading nation, one flag had already become familiar: the United States. America had maintained consulate in Saint-Pierre since 1790, long before it became a global power, long before it openly called the Caribbean its sphere of influence. In late April, the mountain began to wake, and the authorities made a decision that would kill almost everyone in the city. Ash began falling on the streets. Birds dropped dead from the sky. Snakes fled the slopes into the city. The river near the volcano started boiling. People wanted to leave, but there was an election scheduled for May 11th. Local officials feared panic more than danger. A scientific commission was formed. The commission concluded that Saint-Pierre was safe. The governor himself traveled to the city to calm the population. He was there on the morning of May the 8th. At 7:52 a.m., Mount Pelée erupted sideways. A black cloud of superheated gas, ash, and rock came down the mountain faster than a hurricane. It reached the city in less than a minute. Saint-Pierre did not burn slowly, it vanished. Almost 30,000 people died. Families at breakfast, dock workers in the harbor, passengers on ships preparing to leave. The governor, the American consul Thomas Prentice, his wife, his daughters. The city disappeared so quickly that many victims were found exactly where they had been standing. One man survived. His name was Ledger Silberis. The night before, he had been locked inside a stone punishment cell after a drunken fight. The thick walls and the tiny air opening protected him from the heat. The town jail saved the one man the town had condemned. Within hours, the news crossed the Atlantic by telegraph, and 4 days later, something arrived from the north. The international response was immediate. Many nations sent ships, many nations sent money, but the American response stood out for one reason: speed. On May 12th, only 4 days after the eruption, the United States Congress approved emergency relief funding, food, medical supplies, clothing, temporary shelters. A naval vessel, the USS Dixie, arrived carrying doctors, nurses, and aid workers. The help was real, The compassion was real, and the world watched it happen almost in real time. Because 1902 was also the beginning of something new, the modern global media event. Telegraph networks carried updates across the Atlantic within hours. Newspapers in New York, London, and Paris printed the same catastrophe on the same morning. For the first time, an entire planet could watch a nation being generous together. France sent aid too, of course. It was a French colony, but France was far away, and France still thought about the Caribbean like an inheritance. America already thought about it like strategy. That difference mattered, because by 1902, the United States had become something new. 4 years earlier, after the Spanish-American War, it had taken Puerto Rico and occupied Cuba. Washington had begun to see the Caribbean less as neighboring islands and more as an American sea. But here is the part almost nobody noticed. America did not rush into Saint-Pierre from outside. America was already there. Go back more than a century, in 1778, during the American Revolution, France and the young United States became allies against Britain. And in the Caribbean, Saint-Pierre became one of the key ports linking them together. American merchants traded there constantly. American ships filled the harbor. In 1790, the United States established one of its very first foreign consulates anywhere in the world, in Saint-Pierre. George Washington personally appointed the consul. So, when the mountain destroyed the city in 1902, the Americans were not discovering Martinique for the first time. They already knew the routes, the harbor, the merchants, the political value of proximity. And the eruption revealed something important. Not only that relief could save lives, but that visibility itself could create influence. The first country seen helping in a crisis often becomes the country people remember afterward. America understood this earlier than most, not through ideology, through practice, through repetition, through showing up. Lurger Silbury survived for days inside the destroyed prison cell before rescuers found him. His burns were severe, but he lived, and after recovering, he became internationally famous. Not in France, in America. He was recruited by Barnum and Bailey and toured the United States as the man who lived through Doomsday. Crowds paid to look at him. The sole survivor of Saint-Pierre had become an American ticket. And somehow, that ending feels strangely perfect. Because throughout the 20th century, this is what America repeatedly learned to do. Not simply to arrive, but to absorb people, stories, disasters, symbols, and sometimes entire regions of influence. We remember Saint-Pierre as a natural disaster, a volcano, a city, a terrible morning in 1902. But history is often decided in the aftermath of catastrophe, in the ships that arrive afterward, in the photographs people remember, in the nations that understand how visibility becomes influence. While France mourned the destruction of one of its Caribbean cities, America was already learning how power in the 20th century would work. This was History of Script. You know where to find me.